Hiya, so I'm just going to take you through types of kite boards. So there's a fair few types of kitesurfing boards. There's twin tip surfboards, skim boards and foil boards. Today we're just going to go through twin tips. So starting off with twin tips, there's a few different parts about them. There's the actual just outline shape of them. That affects how they're going to be. So if they're a squarer shape, a more rounded shape, or somewhere in the middle, it's going to affect how it rides. A squarer shape is going to make it a grippier board. It's going to have a longer straight edge on it, so that there is going to grip more of the board in, making it more effective. So it's going to be easy to go in a straight line, give you a bit more grip, but less easy to turn around. Whereas something that cuts in a bit more, you'll find will be much more carvy, giving a nicer feel, but is going to be a little bit harder for things like riding upwind and going in a straight line and holding down a bit of power. Another key thing that often goes hand in hand with those two will be the rocker. So that's how curved the board is. So if you have a board such as this one that has quite a lot of rocker, so that's the curve from end to end. If it's very curved, you're going to find that it sits lower in the water, so that makes it a smoother ride. You feel the chop a little bit less. However, it makes it a little bit less efficient. If you have a flatter board, so these are usually a more basic entry-level board, which would be similar to this. Also good for light wind. These are very flat board, so a lot less curve from nose to tail. That allows the board to be much flatter on the water, which makes it plane at a much lower speed. Makes it much more efficient for its size and shape. However, it's going to be a little bit more slappy on that water. It's going to be just bouncing along the top, so a little bit less comfortable to ride around on a board like that. Another key thing that will make a lot of difference to boards is the channels, so and the base of the board. So if you have a board such as this that has quite a complex base, so it has channels and it also has an X base in the middle there. So what that does is the channels give it a bit of extra grip, especially when you find channels up here around where the fin placement will be, because it pushes extra water onto the fin, making the fin more efficient for its size. That also allows you to use a smaller fin if you want. The channels usually make the boards a little bit stiffer where the channels are as well, so it stops the flex of the board, which can be good for if you're loading it up for freestyle and pop, giving the board a more stiffness for its thickness. So you have to have quite a thick board, allowing a thinner board. And then something like an X base like this, that means that when you do land on the water, it's going to splay the water out, making much smoother and really good in choppy water. If you have a more basic board, so going back to this one we had earlier, which obviously is the one with less concave, you'll also find it's quite often just got a single concave on the centre there, less channels. So again, making it very efficient, great for light wind and getting going. Much more basic construction, but it's going to give it a little bit less grip, make the board a little bit more slidey. For some boards that's going to be really useful though, especially if you're kind of wanting to play around in waves and wanting a more carvy, slidey board. In terms of construction, there's a few various types of woods that are used in the boards. All the kind of entry-level boards, such as this one and these ones here, is going to be standard wood core, as you can kind of see here. With ABS or with top-end boards, you might have urethane rails. As you work your way up through to more complex boards, such as this one, it will still have kind of a majority wood core, but you may find it will have carbon stringers throughout, or in the case of this, it has the carbon mesh on the back there. So you'll start to find material such as that used inside them. That allows the board to be lighter for its thickness and stiffness. So again, looking towards the top end boards, you'll start to find extra material such as this inside of them, and like I said, with the top end you might also get the urethane rails, which will be less prone to splitting or getting damaged in the rails, so the liquid rails. Throughout different boards you'll find that the fin placement, so where the actual fin is towards the edge of the board or the end end of the board will vary. So you'll find some boards, such as this one here, where the fin's right up at the corner. So it's going to be really grippy right away in that corner, especially with a large fin like that. Whereas other boards, the fin's going to be slightly further down, away from the end of the board, to give it a little bit less grippy. And as mentioned, some will have that fin very near to a rail, just to make it more efficient. You'll find most boards will kind of be in around about this position, so a little bit away from the edge of the board and the end of the board. As mentioned, the weight and construction of the board go hand in hand. So as you go towards higher end models with the thinner construction, better technology, you'll find the board's significantly thinner towards the edges, and then a lot more detail, CNC detail on the top of the board, giving it the strength where you need it to have, and then the flex where you want it to have. Whereas a more basic construction is going to be this style, where it's just a single piece of wood that's thicker towards the centre to give it stiffness, and then going up to a thinner tip to give it some flexibility there, rather than having quite so much detail on it. Usually a board like this is going to be thicker wood, makes it kind of noticeably heavier, and usually with more resin, whereas the higher end models will be in a higher press, so it's going to have less resin, but still give it the stiffness and the strength that you require. With most of the boards, they all have the standard inserts. However, you will find, especially with kind of some of the top end boards, they'll have the channels such as these ones, which allow you to put your foot pads in varying positions to make them wider or narrower. And then with most foot pads, once they go on, you can slide them up and down, and also it gives you the rotation angle. You'll either find boards will have angled inserts such as this, or they'll have straight inserts. The angled inserts can have almost every brand of foot strap attached to them. The ones with straight inserts will always need an adjustable foot pad such as this one. If you want to see a little more about foot pads, probably just watch our video on that, and I'll show you all the different types of foot pads. But in terms of which board's going to be best for what type of rider, a more kind of beginner intermediate rider is going to be looking for something a little bit more like this, which is flat concave, slightly squarish shape, a little bit of curve to it, so you are going to be able to turn still, but it's still a good amount of surface area for the length of the board, with fairly standard single concave base design. As you look for a more advanced board, you might be looking for something a bit more like this, with a little more curve to it, or something slightly square if you're looking more towards freestyle, with a bit more base shape and various channeling on the bottom, as you're able to progress and not have to worry about your kind of upwind ability, and you can look a little bit more about what you want from the board in terms of what type of riding you're going to be doing. You can either want more channeling or more carvy board if you're looking more towards the wave riding style of kiting.